Welcome to the Sweet Potato Pirate Radio Episode 5. I'm Gio, and we got upper Yard right here.
That's right. Look at the camera.
Hatred, what's that?
What's that?
Oh, sorry. I had a metronome on.
Damn, metronome. Sheesh.
All right. Well, as usual, thank you to all our subscribers. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. We appreciate it a lot. And add a little comment of what animal you think me and Kareem look like in the comment section, just for fun.
Yes, please. I want to know. Dying to know.
What kind of bird? But let's get into it. We got a lot of topics for this week. And of course, as usual, we're going to start with a poem.
That's right. Let's get it.
A quote. Today, what that is called virtue itself among all the little people. Pity. They have no respect for great misfortune, for great ugliness, for great failure. This is from The Ugliest Man in Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche.
Oh, can you read it again? Now that I have more context.
Today, that is called virtue among all the little people. Pity.
Ooh.
They have no respect for great misfortune, great ugliness, or great failure.
Appreciation for ugliness and failure?
Yeah, they don't.
Because they're small people.
They're small people.
You heard it here first.
And then what, like they...
Nietzsche right here.
Nietzsche right here.
Damn, brutal. Brutal. He's right, though, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and later they go on to say that, like, all of the little... Or, like, what is good shall be the good as it's understood by the smallest people in the world. And I think that that's very true for our society right now, like, with what we consider good. It's like, oh, I donate to this organization that profits, or like that pockets most of the cash, but calls itself a charity.
And remember, Nietzsche is talking about these, like, so-called, the most elites of elites at the time. These, like, what would you describe them as? Like, you know, I know they're German, but, you know, this all built up from years of nationalism in that area of people who thought they were the greatest. This led up to all the Nazi shit.
Right. Well, one thing about him
these people are small.
Friedrich Nietzsche was a German-speaking Pole, right?
Is he from Poland?
His ancestry was Polish.
Oh. Is that why we got that mustache?
Yeah.
Crazy mustache.
So he was in this area of, and like, you know, things that later went on to be the Nazi Party and things like that. But he was like, he didn't see himself as German. He considered himself one of the best writers of the German language, and he liked German culture, but he was not part of that ethnic thing.
I mean, I can't speak for much of that personal details of his life, but I know that his criticisms are the people who, at the time, saw themselves as pinnacle people. And it's kind of interesting that there's somebody who's also kind of on the inside seriously criticizing them and criticizing their whole history. He goes back to Greek and then criticizes those people in a big way. So
nobody's safe.
There's nobody's, and I appreciate that, like, because he could have indulged in all of that nonsense and because he was a great, you know, writer, great, you know, learner of history, and also understands language super well. So he could have easily, like, fit the puzzle of the time in a very profound way, in another way, you know. But instead, he spoke against it because he knows that the depths of this life is not found in all your little belongings and all your little symbols of status and all that bullshit. Not to make him so much revolutionary, but, you know, it's good to see somebody.
I think it was revolutionary in his ideas, but you know, it takes a while. Like in philosophy, right? To just do it in writing is nothing, right? There's an actual thing. I think he's the greatest philosopher of the modern period.
But that's why
I don't think there's anybody who's been as good as him since.
But no, that's why you can respect people. Like, those are the people I like respect people like the Buddha, who left all that wealth and like he was literally a prince, left it behind for something that he thought was greater, and you can see it in the work that not only he created, but that went on to be created after his name. Same with like Heraclitus.
Yeah,
you know, he was like He was a royalty as well,
He
right?
was supposed to be king, and he gave up king to become a philosopher.
So those
And this
are
was before anyone had even become a philosopher.
how many people can do that? Not a lot of
Right?
people. A
It
lot of
was like
people just take
nobody
the
had been a philosopher before
exactly.
him.
And yeah,
Like
it's
Thales,
respectable
you
as hell.
know,
Who?
like Thales. Like these are people
Thales.
like pre Heraclitus, because he's before Socrates.
Yeah, I mean, it
So
just
there's
shows
like-
you the weight and significance of what they're searching for is
Right.
bigger than what this world has offered you, or makes you believe is what valuable and worthy of
Speaking of valuable,
being a example of society, for everybody.
there's James Madison's. You know we have to talk about this. James Madison had this crystal flute, and Lizzo was gifted it by the United States Congress for her deeds for the
Hell,
country.
I like that. We getting white people shit from back in the day.
Yeah,
Oh, this is great.
it was gifted to her, and
This
so
is
she
good.
was doing some flutes, and I'm no Lizzo fan. I don't have anything against her. I've just never. I've mostly known her career from other people. I'm not I couldn't say I really know.
I know as much
I don't-
about it as I do
I
about
don't
Billie
know much
Eilish.
about Lizzo, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I don't know much about Billy.
It's not our music.
It's not my kind of. It's not really what I listen to. I don't listen to no Lizzo, but I have to say, it is one of the better I think performances. Was their little crystal flute like? I saw her, and then I was reading.
I have
the
not
news,
seen it.
and they said that after that happened, there was a rift in the earth opened up.
What happened?
And all these trolls, goblins,
Who said this?
This is the news.
The news said that. Yeah, this is why you can't trust the news, yo. This is
And
crazy.
they've been running amok now.
Wow.
All these hobgoblins, all these sorted creatures. So now it's
Sheesh.
thought that Lizzo might be a sorceress of some kind. She might be on some villain stuff.
I would love that. I would love to see that kind of payback. It would be crazy to see. I think it would be lit. If that was real, but it's not real. It's just trolls. But literally trolls. Y'all the real trolls, But no, I would love to see Lizzo with some powers because I know she shut a lot of people up with some crazy ass shit. It would be crazy. She will be a villain probably.
You think she'd be a villain?
She stomped so many people out. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Some people would deserve it though. Let's be honest. Some people gonna deserve
Oh,
to stomp.
definitely.
But a few people just gonna get it coming. It's just one of those
Yeah,
situations. But
it's like the
I'll start with the
train
news.
doesn't stop.
If I was Lizzo, I'll start with the news.
Let's start with the news.
Play my flute at the news station. It's like the Pied Piper. Oh my god. This is a good latte.
Yeah, we're enjoying this latte. We're a little bit late with our recording, but we're still doing it done. Oh, another news story. Russia annexed 4 regions of the Ukraine this last week.
In the eastern border,
Yeah, that region.
in the Donbass. I can't.
Yeah,
even say.
that Donetsk and and then there are some other ones. Like pretty much, it's like if you look at a map
Yeah.
of Ukraine, it's like between it's like areas near the Crimea and near the Russian border on the east.
Yeah, it's
So-
like they're trying to sandwich it in. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
I don't know if it's
They
gonna
want
work.
some- I mean, the thing is, I think that the Ukraine is currently attacking it still. Like, Ukrainian, that's
Mm-hmm.
where the war is happening, is in the areas that they've so-called annexed, And they also announced that, they're going to treat anyone trying to take that area land back
Yeah.
like they're taking Russian soil.
It's crazy, yo.
That's just crazy.
It just
That's
really
crazy.
that's how little these borders and names really mean. It just takes somebody else to just storm in and just this is called something
Well, yeah,
else now.
the borders are really military things.
Did you
right?
see what they've been hanging up all over? Their propaganda machine has already gone to work in certain
you
areas
talking
of Ukraine, and you see the posters it's like little children talking about the Russian heritage, how we're all Russian. It's creepy. It's like really
saw
Nazi
that,
shit.
yeah.
It's like I know I can see this being in good intentions behind it or so-called good intentions, but it looks creepy as hell because everybody just uses images of kids
Yeah,
in times
yeah.
of war where people are dying
true.
and shit like
That's
that.
true.
It's crazy to see white people engage in this type of shit because I thought you all above this kind of shit, but no.
Nope.
Hey, we out here, yo. We all the same. We all the same.
Definitely.
This is happening in Ethiopia as well. It's pretty gruesome, disgusting what's happening in certain parts of the country, and you can't really describe it as this is just Ethiopia. There's so many different
Right.
regions and kinds of people doing their kinds of different things, but it escalates in certain areas, and it's not pretty, and it's hard to discuss it when everybody is just kind of brainwashed in their own unique way. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, this is to me is the kind of thing where, it kind of breaks my heart when I hear people talk about like, oh no, we can't talk about it. We need to fight. They need to get punched. Like any of this rhetoric of escalating to violence, like yes, there's people out there who believe.
Has that been in
horrible
America?
things.
There's people here who want to go fight.
Yeah. Well, like I think that's
Oh.
politically. It's like you'll hear like liberals say that about conservatives because they're.
I've seen them put the flag up on their profile, but I didn't know they wanted to arm up.
Yeah, some people do want to arm up too, and it's
Damn.
like, I mean, I don't think we're quite at that stage, but like it's definitely I've seen the politics of America. Like people are going crazier than I think ever, right? Like
It's ridiculous. You just gotta learn from history. You know, it's how many times you storm into another country thinking you're gonna solve problems.
Right.
It's not. You're gonna not solve nothing.
and I think on top of that, it's just like violence is not the answer. Like we really like, well, when things turn into war, like when you actually have a war zone, that's a very sad and brutal way to work through events. Right?
No, it's
This
like you
entire
fail
thing-
in many. This is like
Yeah.
it should be not. It should be the last resort,
Yeah.
especially now in
Like
this
diplomacy,
point in
I
time.
think, is a much better thing, and so
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we need some more diplomats. We need a new
It's a cycle.
we need a
Though.
new generation of diplomats.
Too much cycle of violence already is
Yeah,
instilled
definitely.
in the population.
Yeah.
Like these people, like remember,
It's
like
something we need to guard ourselves against.
the Russia Ukraine, it goes way back. Like this
Yeah,
goes
for
back
sure.
way before they even were like dealing with other like Mongolian tribes or whatever was coming in, like flipping it up and switching it up for them and like
Golden Horde.
But it just shows you how much cycles of hatred is created within just
Yeah,
small groups
definitely.
of people closer to each other. Like it's where really the most violence happens. It's like amongst very similar types of people in regions that are almost isolated, or I guess you can say like on the fringes. Because Ukraine it seems like first world country in certain aspects, but in certain cities it seems that way. But there's rural ass parts of Ukraine,
Right.
just like Russia has crazy rural parts where there are people living there that are just as impoverished as anywhere else you can see.
I mean, I think it all started with the right 2014, right before the Russia invaded the Crimea.
yeah.
Whatever, the president of Russia had been removed by protests.
The president, I thought that was always Putin.
No, sorry, the president of Ukraine. I misspoke.
Oh, okay. I was-
He got removed by protests.
okay, yeah.
And he had been a pro-Russia guy.
Yeah.
And so this is like an example, I think, of like Russia's like a power that's losing its grip in the Eastern Europe. Like the Baltic countries are all in NATO now. Finland and Sweden are about to join NATO. And so the Russian sphere
Isn't that a bit? Didn't they cross the line with that though? Like inviting all these, like, kind of like on the border nations to NATO is kind of declaration of war in a way. Like I know with,
I mean, the
maybe
thing
not.
is, well, the whole point of NATO originally.
Maybe not with Finland, but at least with
Yeah.
like Poland, maybe even
Well,
like
but Poland, the thing is, it's like
Ukraine.
Poland. You can't even blame Poland because they've gotten how many times have they gotten invaded by Russia in history?
I actually don't know. My history knowledge of that region is fringe at best.
It's like all of
At
these
best.
places are paranoid about Russian invasion, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that part of the issue is that these other countries, they don't want to be firmly in. Like you can't say, right? America can't say, oh, Mexico, if you start becoming allies with this other country. Well, honestly, America would probably say this, but I don't think that that's right. Like, I don't think that it's right for the
That's what-
country next. Like,
Man.
you can't be making rules for the countries that
Yeah.
you don't follow. Like, that aren't in
Honestly,
your borders.
this is what it means to be a superpower and to project your power. Is you're not really a superpower until all your neighbors are kind of in line. So having your neighbors
Yeah.
act up in this way or kind of align themselves with others that you see as enemies or potential enemies is where that whole idea, I think,
Yeah.
plays this
But
role,
I mean-
and that's what Russia tries to do, and that's what leads to more and more
I
violence.
think that
in that
Russia
region.
is a declining power, right? So it's like
Yeah.
Like
huge,
the Russian Empire. Well, the Russian Empire, right, was the reason why it was huge. The Russian, in the USSR, inherited that territory, right? And so, like, Russia was at its peak in the Soviet Union,
Yeah.
and now it's declining. Like, a lot of those states are falling out of its influence. I think Central Asia is still very much.
So are we gonna see some
in
new
that-
countries over there?
I think there's a chance. I think there is a chance, and I think that
Damn.
also China is like really the rising superpower. So now,
Is China
They're
going to
saying
swallow
that-
them up?
huh?
Is China going to swallow up these regions?
I could see it. I could
That's
see.
crazy.
I mean, if that would be if Russia really stops existing, but like, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly. I don't know if it's.
They share a border, right? Russia and China.
Yeah. They share.
That's a crazy border.
Yeah.
Russia and China
and
border.
Mongolia's in the middle too.
Damn.
Like sandwiched between those two.
That's inevitable, right? That's too much happening in one fat continent. Asia is crazy, yo.
Asia is crazy. Yeah, there's a lot.
Damn. But there's a lot of like steppes and mountains separating them, keeping like major populations apart.
Yeah, the major Well, that's the thing too about Russia is that like the core of where Russia is it's like the Moscow, St. Petersburg,
all on the
region,
west,
right? On the west.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of these other things, like kind of like the Russian version of Alaska, a lot of these are like indigenous populations that like feel suppressed. Yeah. Like there's a lot of
those Siberian tribes,
Hungaric, like Uralic speakers. And then there's a lot of different.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Even white people got indigenous people. Yo, it's this the same story everywhere? Yeah. And then more violence.
More violence.
Cut it out, man. It's ridiculous. Seriously. It's crazy. And the earth also is dying while all this is happening. So it's like, what's going on?
And speaking of dying, a certain Jordan Peterson was crying on the.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. I don't know why I laughed.
No. It's
He was crying for men who are not getting laid,
right?
He's crying for dudes who don't get laid.
I saw the interview and like it was something I can't remember who the girl is, but some like famous lady was like doing a show about Jordan Peterson being like, oh, he's the hero of the incels, and then it was like talking to like Piers Morgan, I think, and Piers Morgan is
that dude is also he's an Arsenal fan.
And Jordan Peterson's like, I can't. This is going to be a little bit off. I'm just paraphrasing.
I wish we could play the clips. News. One day we won't play clips.
One day we're going to play the clips. We're not there yet. But essentially what happened was that Piers Morgan, had asked him, like, how do you feel about representing incels? And then, Jordan Peterson's like, I think it's quite despisable the way that we've just cast these men off. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for me to be able to be in their lives.
Now go clean your room.
My little lobster babies. Little lobster babies, I love you.
For real. The reason I'm laughing is not because I'm messed up. It's because I've seen him cry too many times.
He loves to cry.
And I don't know, like seeing a man cry that many times, you start to question, like, I want men to cry more. It's like we should cry more. But you crying publicly that many times, it's a bit like, damn. And then now it's just getting funny, like, bro. Plus, you gotta stop acting like these people are martyrs and you're like some kind of saint. Like that, the whole coded language behind his attitude is what I don't like, because it's not like there are not literal martyrs out there and literal people who are suppressed in major ways. A guy can't get laid. A guy can't get laid, and it's a problem for the population because these dudes might become reactive and violent. And that's true. To make it seem like he's this, like, it almost for him to seem biblical, like, right, chill out. It's like, let's put it into its perspective and context, because you crying 40 times in public is a bit much. Like, it's almost like
chilling out is the right thing.
It's almost he's desperate to be a prophet or something. Like it's too much.
But it's also like, it's like, what's the real tragedy here? Like, you can't have sex with somebody, like. You don't have, like, no.
The real tragedy.
That's not a right.
I'll tell you,
nobody has the right to have
the
sex.
problem is not that these dudes, like, if these dudes didn't get laid and it was just in a vacuum and that was it, people wouldn't care as much. The problem is, like, a lot of these dudes become reactionary. There's victims, like children or women, like, you never know.
But
they're real life victims created.
The issue here isn't that they aren't getting laid. It's that they're like, they think that, like, it's like that there's this whole shame dynamic about it, right? It's like, it's not that, like, if you don't have sex, that's fine.
That also is another problem. Like, that's another problem.
You can just enjoy not having sex. Like, that's
I appreciate he can advocate
thing for you
Yeah.
to go around like freaking out and like trying to kill people about it. Right?
That's a
Like,
big problem.
what the hell are
That
we
already is
talking
a
about?
that
What
already
the
is a
hell are we
huge
talking
problem.
about?
That already is a huge problem.
And so, like, to me, it's like the context of him being like, these poor boys. It's like,
It's like let me
they're the ones who are inventing the problem.
Let me just
you
say-
want to get laid? Like,
Yeah,
that's
chill
a
out.
desire you're adding on. That's an expectation you're having for your life, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, honestly, like these labels don't help either.
No.
Like, don't go around calling
Incels.
yourself incel. Even if you are, don't be like adopting that as your identity piece, because this is the kind of language and
Yeah.
like coded
Don't
language that
identify.
leads to violence. Because I'm telling you, like
People overly identify. That's so true.
that whole thing with the is a problem with Jordan Peterson himself. I have no issue with him advocating for men in any way. Like, but then the seriousness and the way he kind of appeals is like, I don't even see that kind of attitude with like the Dalai Lama.
Right.
His whole country is being
Yeah,
swallowed
yeah. No, yeah.
by a whole other like there.
Well, the Dalai Lama is like an example of that's a beautiful human being, right?
That's
there, right? Because
he's not even
really
close to that level.
bearing the suffering well.
he wish,
right?
you know.
But
He wishes, but he can learn from that
Yeah.
because
I mean, well, let's
if he
get
wants
into
people to
it.
follow him, he doesn't need to
Yeah.
just cry all the time. He needs to show strength as well at the same time, because these people need strength. They need to know that they can get past all these obstacles, because a man has privilege in this world where he can really grow himself. Like a woman is sometimes constrained to just what she look like or what she is. It's harder to grow, become like really something like a man is potentially given. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
like
there's a lot
a
of
completely
privilege
hideous
right about
dude
there.
can really climb up in a big
Yeah.
way and make himself super desirable, and people kind of admire that quality of guys who can really flower in this way. That same thing applies in women, but you see it less because they're constrained to like how, like, especially when you talk about looks, like it's hard for a woman to become like from a what they consider to be like lower, like a 2 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. But you can see a man can make that journey a
Right.
lot easier
Men
because
aren't
there's
as
different
judged
sticks.
in- like,
Yeah.
that's true. And I mean,
So as a man, don't get violent. Work hard
But I
because
think
you
that
can get there.
Like, well, it's important to talk about manhood and like Jordan Peterson championing for men, right? But I think that like one thing that I think is interesting, and maybe we have a responsibility to talk about, is like, as men, how do we see this, like these kind of things, like these problems affecting men?
I mean, I see it every day. I mean, I see it in a way where the older I get, the more clearer it is in my brain, because I don't know, in certain phases, in certain phases of life, you kind of find yourself in these places like where you feel isolated, you feel lonely, you feel like you can't communicate properly, or you feel like you don't have enough friends,
Right.
but you don't feel like your life is popping enough. You know what I mean? Like everybody goes through these phases, and for me, it's like a call to grow and to understand what it is that I'm trying to create in my reality, and not just kind of be following kind of like labels that everybody's created. Oh, I'm just this.
Yeah.
That's just so
People
limiting.
I think that that's really true. Is that people over-identify with these labels, and again. All right, sorry about that. We corrupted our audio file there for a second.
No, nacho break.
Yeah, we had we had a nacho break. We definitely did not have any audio problems, and if we did, it was definitely not my fault. So I don't know what you're talking about there.
Video sponsored by Vitamin Water Tropical Citrus. The best vitamin water, the best thing to drink on earth, besides the water itself.
Besides water. Anyways, we were talking about Jordan Peterson, I think. Do we have anything else to say about that?
I mean, yeah, like we do the work. We appreciate what you advocate for. Just don't be so extra.
Yeah, well, I think that it's just like good to just. I think everyone just needs to calm down a little bit when it comes to all of these like men's issues, because I think that the real question is how do we grow to become like good people that people can respect and fulfill their role in society. You know, not to say that men and women have to do these very separate things, but like as men, right, we're gonna show up, we're gonna call ourselves like straight men or hetero or blah blah blah. That's just the group of people I'm talking about right now. We do have a lot of power. We do have a lot of issues, and we need to. I think it's very important that as men, we are strong. We take care of ourselves, and we're going to do like the right thing, and we're going to be a blessing to society, and not complain about things and
the way things are.
Yeah.
And what's also, people got to stop measuring up to like what you see on social media as like
Right.
you gotta have like 5 bitches, like all that shit is
No,
stupid. Like
that's all lies too.
you
Like
gotta find something genuine for
Yeah.
yourself. Like trying to emulate other people thinking they're living, because they also depressed as shit. They also got all kinds of anxieties and they be
Right,
popping all
right.
kinds of pills. So like, don't model yourself after anybody online, even if you think that person is like healthy and like even those
yeah, all these
all those
flexes
hardworking ass workout bros, like it's fine. Like
It's
don't
fake.
do your shit. Do what's organic for you and what's going to
Yeah,
get you to
yeah,
your
yeah.
potential, because it's not the same for everybody.
Yeah, you
Some
follow
people are
your
weird.
dreams. Follow
Some
your
people find their
dreams.
potential
And
in
then
weird
I think
ways.
that, like, yeah, I noticed that. Well, this is why I wanted to talk about it, because I noticed that like a lot of guys will watch like the pickup artist or like all of these like cringe ass
Oh.
dudes on the internet. It's like you need to stop right now. Like you really need to stop. Like that's just so far from what
It's got to be only middle
how
schoolers
you
watching
do that.
those guys now. It
No,
can't be
dude,
real.
I've seen some
Grown ass people
I
watch
think
those.
some grown ass people.
People,
do.
I remember back in the day,
But I think some middle schoolers do too. But
People
shout
pay
out
money to
middle
go to
schoolers,
classes
right.
for this.
No,
It's-
I
it's
know.
crazy.
But like this is the issue. I think is like people, people don't have social skills. They don't have social skills, so they look to the internet to figure out how they can do it. Well, it's like just relax and be yourself, and like don't feel so insecure about these things. Just treat people well. Treat people well and treat yourself well and care about the things you care about. Like, be honest. Don't don't play so many games. Don't have all of these issues
I mean, even to shorten it, like I would say, like be whatever. Like even if you're a weirdo, like obviously don't hurt other people, but
Right.
like really just explore what you are, because
Right.
not everybody's made the same. Trust me. Like you're gonna realize just the layer of uniqueness that everybody possesses, not because they're special or they're like called upon by whatever. It's just how the nature of we're subject to so much variable that we just blossom in this way. I feel like, and people really like One Piece. It shows you just how
Yeah.
how awesome and fun people could be if they're just fully
Yeah.
themselves. Like
are
no
fully
matter how
themselves.
wacky.
Yeah.
And somebody will love that. I'm telling you, like you'll have the best friends. You'll have the
Don't try to
the most
fit in.
loyalist of
Don't
people
try-
around you.
yeah. Be unique. Be
People
yourself.
appreciate that. Like
Yeah,
even people who go around fronting all the time, like they still got their like little baby cousins or whatever that they
Yeah.
can really be
And
themselves around.
I think actually this is probably the most important thing I want to say is don't identify with like the things you see on the internet.
never
That's not who
even
you
the
are.
good stuff, even the good like nothing,
Like
nothing
you are not
at all.
who you watch on the internet. You're not like all of these things is just all fake nonsense. Like who you are is who you are in person, and your situation in life is what you see in person. It's
Yep.
not the way that it's not like these little groups that people invent on the internet. That's not real.
Yeah, and again, like if you're one of those people who considers themselves like you're socially destitute, like you are
Yeah.
in a position where you don't think you can create much for yourself, you really have to take advantage of like the way we live today in today's time, because you got all the time to be alone. That's perfect for so much growth. You have no idea. Like
Right.
take that time when you're alone, when nobody's bothering you. Trust me, like when you get to a certain point, people bother you too much. Like there's lines in
yeah.
this. So if
Turn
that's
off
the card you think you
turn
were
off
dealt,
the video games, turn off the Discord. Spend some time actually alone.
do something that's going to like literally like you have no idea. But
Yeah.
it's hard to motivate people when they're in the real trenches. But
Definitely.
trust me, there's potential in those trenches, and you just gotta take that time. And don't try to appeal. Like don't spend time trying to like put on a fake suit so people do start liking you, because that's never gonna be like it's
Don't
gonna
fake
be
your way.
you're
Or
gonna
like,
be
even
exhausted.
when they do like you, that's not really gonna be who you are. So that's never gonna work out.
That's gonna be exhausting. Keep that up. It's tiring.
Anything that's built on lies is gonna crumble.
It's gonna be exhausting. And everybody's not gonna like you, so you got to figure that out too.
This is something I wanted to talk about. It's kind of reminded me, which is like, do you know when we're giving all these people advice, but do you know when somebody gives you really bad advice
Oh yeah,
and you're just like, can you shut up?
oh yeah. Of course, and most of that is from the internet. Like I be on the internet sometimes, like I be looking at people like, damn, they got 500,000 views. They're saying some crazy shit, but they got 500,000 people watching that and eating it up. Like people, there really is no. It's a wild west, like I said. There's no like consensus out there in the internet, because everybody will find their audience, and that's just the sad reality. You don't know what that's going to escalate to.
There's all these different little puddles that people live in.
Perfect trans.
Internet
Alex
puddles.
Jones. This is the perfect Alex, because I
Alex
feel like
Jones?
we got to
All
talk
right,
about
let's
that
go
video.
to Alex Jones.
I mean, this week he did an
Alex
interview.
Jones. Yeah, he was interviewed by Channel 5, and it was about the whole Sandy Hook thing. I'm sure I'm sure we don't have to familiarize people with exactly that whole situation. I mean, it was one of the biggest American tragedies of the last. I don't know. Yeah, probably of the 2010s, that was probably the worst American tragedy. Would be Sandy Hook. Was that in the 2010s or the
I
2008?
think so.
I don't remember
know.
exactly, but whatever it was,
Pretty messed up.
it was well, definitely one of the most horrible things that's happened in my lifetime and in recent memory. And of course, Alex Jones famously was, denying it and telling like the people to go and
They just want our guns.
yeah, and he's like telling the people to like investigate, and all these like. So then there was like these cracked out like.
He had an audience.
He's like, yeah,
He has a crazy audience who's going to believe everything he says.
Yeah, exactly.
And go bother real people who just lost their kids. It's crazy.
There's like harassing them. They were saying like, I know you have it in your attic. Like,
It's so trippy. That whole thing was so trippy because like even when he overcame like that level of delusion he had about the situation, he apologized and he was like, "This I don't believe it. I don't." There were still people crazy enough to like weave it up into something it wasn't. Like, oh, he became. They have excuses.
Or like, the globalists got to.
Yeah, because all they need is just a reason or something to make them feel like their life has meaning, and that's all it is. It's just like it's a sad reality.
I think that's one thing that I noticed is that like, well, and they were talking about conspiracy theorists, right? And they were like saying because it used to be true that conspiracy theories were kind of fun. And now the thing is, I think that conspiracy theories are like they're saying that it's now this dangerous like weird right wing thing, and I think that that's very true. But what do you think about all that?
It's true, and I don't think it's a strictly right wing thing either. I feel like this level of thinking is just like inevitable when the internet came around because I remember back in the day we used to get in these rabbit holes about all kinds of things. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun to just keep like whoa, wow. And then like I remember like last year they were gonna do a raid on Area 51 because eventually they want to go inside. Like I get it, like it's fun to fantasize, but the kids get older, and when the kids get older, the kids want to crack the eggs for real. So now you're gonna end up having all these instances of people like acting up because it's no longer like because these are the same people we grew up all of us watching like conspiracy theories, Freemasons, and what are these crazy shit? Trying to connect these stupid dots.
Yeah.
And there are dots to connect, but like
sure.
When you get out here in the real world, it becomes a lot more complicated than just like we got to storm the Capitol. First of all, they let you storm that shit. If they wanted to, they would mow you all down, but they didn't. They let you go in there.
Right. That was some weird stuff. They definitely were let in. Like I definitely think that's true. But I also think that as far as that like goes, I think that there's a problem. Like there's a problem if you're living your life where the majority of where you're spending it isn't in here and now. Right? Like if you're sitting here at the table with me eating some nachos, but in your mind you're fighting these like goblin demons or like globalist Satanists.
It's a spiritual warfare. It's a spiritual warfare.
Right. And I'm all for spiritual warfare, right? But like that's just not what that means, right? Like
man, they co-opt so much real movements, man. I get mad tight.
Wake up, come back to your body.
It's crazy.
You're sitting at Applebee's. You're in Cracker Barrel. Calm down, enjoy some sweet tea, and like focus on things that are in front of you and real.
That's for everybody too,
for everybody.
Not just the
that's a symptom. I actually think that like the more I think about this, it's like it really reminded me of the last topic of like the incels people. It's like both of these are examples of people who are not living in the real world. Right?
Yeah.
Incels are like, in their head, they're constantly thinking, they're in this, there's all these women just going crazy, and I'm just getting humiliated, not having sex, blah, 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 blah.
Where my STDs at?
Right. It's not, like, what you like, people build up these imaginary things, right?
Caricatures.
And it's like this imaginary world, that the incels are living. This imaginary world where there's all these globalists.
It's extremes. These incels are extremes, and at the other end, they're more.
The globalists are trying to take our guns.
What's his name? Dan Bilzerian?
Yeah, Dan.
All right, people like that, they're living also not in reality. Like,
right. That's all flex. That's all like.
What's his name? Andrew Tate, not living in reality. Like,
yeah.
These are both
Andrew
extremes.
Tate is another example, right?
You got incel here. You got Andrew Tate here. equally probably as anxious.
It's both of it is like fundamentally non-existent. Like there's no like you're gonna
Crying in my Bugatti.
It's all for nothing, in my opinion, right? It's like it's like you
And they both will get violent too.
yeah both
That's right.
will get violent. It's only exercising an ego, and it's all based on delusions. Like right, like you're thinking of yourself as this suave alpha male, blah blah blah. Like what? You're gonna die and get eaten by worms, and it's not gonna mean shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like the same if you're an incel. Like we're all gonna die, and it's not really gonna matter exactly who had sex with who and blah blah blah. It's gonna matter what legacy we left behind, and if all that legacy was just you complaining, you living in this imaginary dreamland, right? You're this is the toxic level of humanity. This is the toxic masculinity, right?
Yep.
But there's another way. You can live with love. You can treat people with kindness, and we can leave behind an uplifted world.
The problem with all these what you said right now, like they'll use what you said about like liberty, humanity, and justice, and still act in that kind of crazy way. Like you speak to a lot of these like storming the Capitol people, they think they're doing it for the most like what's the word like humane and honorable.
No,
you know what I mean?
think that's true, but I also think that right.
And then these incels
then why are they not living in the real world?
These incels will basically also do the same thing. They'll demonize women to a crazy extent where it becomes
it's like these evil women. It's like,
you know
that's
what I'm saying?
not actually what.
And then they'll think it's moral. They'll think like they have a moral imperative to see them in this way and to go on living in that framework. And I feel like these are the extremes that lead to like violent outcomes, because you really like the same demonization the incels do to other people and women, the same demonizations you see the Trumpers or the Capitol storm, and the people on the left side who also demonize the shit out of us. Everybody demonized so much. When you demonize, you like dehumanize too,
Right.
And then you do all kinds of messed up stuff.
Like these people need compassion. These people are not well. They're living. They need to come back.
And then the kids get hurt.
Kids get hurt.
It's crazy. Like at the end of all this Alex Jones Sandy Hook thing, I just can't get over the fact that underneath all of it, there's been kids getting hurt.
Right.
Same thing with like the incel thing, because they go up and shoot schools and stuff. Like those are kids getting hurt again.
Yeah, there's attacking like college kids and things like that.
It's like
speaking of the incels,
it's a huge problem.
I think we also need to talk about Nick Fuentes.
Ugh. God. Dude, I learned about this dude not even that long ago.
Yeah, I learned about him.
Crazy takes. Crazy takes.
He was
Dude,
saying that it's
gay.
This is like the.
That wasn't even the craziest thing he said.
What did you think was the craziest thing?
Oh, yeah, I watched like a whole.
You watched the whole thing.
I watched the whole thing where he talked about how like it was wrong, race mixing was wrong. And talking about how Jews run everything, like the kind of like shit that you hear on like extreme like white supremacist guys say. But he would never claim to be a white supremacist. He's like, I love black people. I got black people all around me. That's the kind of racist dude we're talking about. And then he also claims to be incel at the same time. So he claims to have no life, can't talk to women, lives in like his little cave where he streams, and literally has some of the worst takes. And he's also supposed to be a mixed race kind of person. Like he's supposed to have Mexican or Irish, and like he's supposed to be mixed. But he'll come and talk so much nonsense about how white people should be here, black people should be there, a lot of people should be kicked out, and how like essentially mixing these groups is detriment to what he calls the white core of America. So I'm like, bruh, you're a white nationalist.
Right.
You. And then obviously he's already been canceled and deplatformed in every which way possible. He can't even be on YouTube right now or in any way. Like he's the only way I saw him.
Like,
he's already deep in this shit, and now he's at a point where he has to lean in even more. So he's just out there in the panel like nigga, like doesn't care. Doesn't care. Like he's too safe. Like he's somewhere really safe, just saying nigga. Like if you really about that life, you run for public office, you say nigga on your little panel. You see what happens. You see who go. Right. You see what it's gonna go to, because that kind of talk is extreme white supremacist talk, and I feel like
that's like taking it.
He has a big audience already. Like he already has people on his little website, on his little Discord, where he talks all kinds of nonsense and makes these kids like radical, like these other incel kind of kids.
I think that's the problem, right? It's like kids who are like lonely, like having trouble in middle school, like stuff like that. Maybe they're not like from it, like maybe they don't have the best background. they turn on the YouTubes, or not the YouTube, whatever the heck this guy's on.
His
I don't know
website,
exactly. His website.
Truth, something like truth, the truth and the only truth.com, probably.
Truth.com.
That's what these idiots always do. That they're like,
password not required.
yeah, they're like, this is liberation media. I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
shut up. Yeah, you're worse than the fucking CNN. Like, you sound so corny. Like,
You're
oh my
holding us
god.
back. You're the reason.
All right, Orson
humanity-
Welles.
We're in a fallen state.
They think he's Orson Welles, like the world is about to end type shit. Like, and only idiots gonna buy into it. The majority of people.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Wow. What a mess. Right, but then it's like they get these like vulnerable like youths that just are having trouble and maybe not being able to talk to people, and then they're like, oh, it's because I'm white, and they like get into like this whole like that whole nonsense. So it's so sad.
Everybody's in their little victim groups, and it's really whack
Well,
to
it's
see
so
these
crazy,
boys do it. It's like, bro,
Yeah.
some people are actually victims, and you understand why they do what they do because it's like on a system level.
Everyone is so obsessed with
It's like
being a
systematic
victim now.
oppression happening, and then here are these little white guys who can't get laid, trying to unionize because
And it's the craziest
they're
thing
not
about that,
benefiting
too,
from
is
the
that
privilege,
They always, those are the people you hear saying like, oh, this is just victim culture. Oh, this is just the special snowflakes.
Yeah.
And then like, and then it's like, you wait a few seconds, and then they go, the plight of the white rich.
That's what pisses
like,
me off.
What are you talking about, man? Like,
they speak like they have an understanding
why am I so
Fuentes,
so hard?
he'll literally sit there talk like he's an anthropology expert, understands human dynamics, race relations.
Yeah.
You think he took critical race theory? He talks in that way, but he'll dismiss all that shit and then go around and make another race argument that serves him. Because it's all serving rhetoric at the end of the day. And you hoping that people like you, little loser kids like you, see that and they want to emulate you, and then you get money from that. And that's all it is just getting a little money from little kids, which is already fucked up.
Right.
But at the same time, like, that shit is also dangerous because he uses so much coded language, tries to act like he's an advocate, tries to act like he understands the real dynamic here, and he's just trying to create a fair state for everybody. But he ultimately outlines how he wants a white core. He wouldn't want to divide it up 50-50. He wouldn't even want to give black people like a sliver of the country. He just wants this level of division. It's like segregation type shit, but at the same time, which will allow you to maintain a white core. Like, bro, come on. And then the N-word is just saying it casually. Like, that's just like, he needs to get beat. That's it. That's all it is.
He needs to stop.
That's crazy.
Like, that's insane.
There's become a trend where like these white dudes are like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna say nigga. Like, who's gonna stop me? Ha, fuck you. And it's true. Like, no, I'm not. Who's gonna put their hands on him in a real way? He's safe. He's hiding behind his mom and dad.
Your arm, he can feel pretty safe. Like, I mean, do this with me. Right? We put out our arm. We can't reach it. We cannot reach it.
Nobody can reach you, so you feel safe.
So you feel safe.
And you can go to Bronx. Say that, yo. Go say
like,
that in the real world.
It's like, what are we doing
ridiculous.
here? Why? Like, what is this giving you to be?
It's such coward shit. It's so cowardly.
Using this inflammatory language, right? And to say things like that, it's such a sad thing. I think. It's such a shame. It really is a shame, right?
My goodness. Sorry, choking on nachos.
But I think you also, and I apologize, I did not actually do my due research here and watch the video, but there's also the 50s debate that you were talking about, and this goes into the race thing, I think, very specifically.
I mean, this thing is kind of like multiple layers of interesting because what it is I've been watching all these like high school foreign exchange students from back in the 1953 or something. So there was a program that allowed people from all over the world to come together and just have crazy discussions about like race, politics, understanding like oppression. They're talking mature conversations. They're high schoolers, and these kids were so well spoken, so poised, so calm. Took like the kind of conversations that you don't see kids today having anywhere. These kids were different, yo. And it wasn't like they were better kids or anything. It was just like crazy to see that we not in any way in that way anymore. Like it's almost like we've completely grown in a different separate way. And we like to believe the past is a little more like, kind of like weaker and not as, we're not as smart, as intelligent, as as open-minded. But the truth was, these kids were having some of the best conversations that even today you can have. And I remember one of them had a panel of just like straight Africans from all over Africa, and one was South African. She was this white South African like high school student, dying at that flag of apartheid, just defending that shit to the core.
Wow.
It was crazy. Like, and then there's another video of her you can find where she basically goes completely against it and says, I was brainwashed. I was not really brainwashed, but this was what the rhetoric of the time was. This is how you speak. This is what we were told. Like, this is what I was supposed to say. This is what I was taught. So it's interesting to see how, like, because I'm not ever judging any of these kids. Some of these kids are advocating for colonialism in the video. So like you watch it and you're like, wow, like I'm not holding anything against these kids, but it's super interesting to see like the level of indoctrination that will clearly allow people to outline, and they'll say super humane, like how Europeans are needed for this. Like this is their God-given role to liberate Africa, to bring civilization to Africa. Like little kids be like fully convinced of that. And I'm like, oh, this is how the cycle continues. Until to this day, I would say. So I would recommend you watch that.
Yeah, well, it's such an interesting topic, and I definitely am going to watch that.
It's crazy.
But I think it's so interesting too to kind of like to be able to like go back in time and look at like the attitudes that people had about colonialism and things like that, because it's easy for us where I think that actually people still kind of have the attitudes of like. But there is this desire. People want to be like, my country can conquer the world. Like there's that inside of people, right?
So they want to go to Ukraine. People want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Liberate people and.
I mean, it's what happened with the German Empire in like World War I. Was like they essentially just wanted to expand their borders, right? And that's just had been the way they were on, right? And England was doing the same thing. Like it wasn't like. I mean, I've done a lot of kind of
border expansions yourself.
Yeah, more research on that. Yeah, border expansions. No, well, my borders have expanded. But no, I think that like, and I'm not over here. I mean, okay, right? We all know World War II. Like, obviously, the Nazis were the bad guys and blah blah blah. But even in World War II, like the Japanese. Where they were viewing themselves as the decolonization, like power, like that's
because they were like who was the Portuguese?
They're getting the Portuguese out. They're getting the French out. They're getting like all these different countries out of Asia. And so like even though they were doing horrible atrocities, they had their they were kind of posing themselves as we're gonna stop the white people from like. Being the dominant power in the world, and
why they team up with the other white people then, who are like the whitest?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's exactly kind of where it gets a little fuzzy, is they're with like the Germans. But I mean, I think that's something that gets lost with
And then the white people came back and bombed them.
Is that like or World War I especially? It's like one colonial power, one colonial empire versus another colonial empire. The German colonial empire and the Austro-Hungarian colonial empire versus the Russian empire and the English empire and the French empire and the United States, right? Yeah. Like there wasn't really
Woodrow Wilson,
and then he was saying his whole thing was he was trying to get people to break up into races.
What?
Like he was trying.
He was suspect. I remember.
He was a very racist person. Like he was about self-rule and democracy, which are good things, right? But then he's also like, he was trying to divide, like, okay, let's have this country for this ethnicity, this country that. And Austria-Hungary at the time, even though it was a colonial empire, it also was like the most kind of diverse, because there's all these different cultures and peoples there.
Yeah.
And so there was this entire kind of culture that I think that got lost, that was this united culture. And then the only thing that ended up surviving was, the individual cultures. And then the Austrian, like, very like pro-German, pan-Germanist, which I think then went into the Hitler, right? That's exactly what this kind of societies I think that led into
Hitler himself. Austrian too.
Yeah, exactly. He was born in Austria-Hungary.
Yeah, I mean, these people are like all the same. Habsburgs.
It's all the same strings, and like the Habsburgs that goes back all the way, right? They're the ones who were colonizing the Americas, right? Like. colonialism was really started by the Habsburgs in a big way, like the most rich people.
Because they were also in Spain. They
There's the
were
Habsburgs, the Spanish Habsburgs.
They were all over the place. They were like Venetian Habsburgs too. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, they were just their whole thing was that they were gonna
Their whole thing was big jaws. That was their the underbite. Yeah.
Yeah. The Habsburg method.
Bro, I can't believe they allowed that to happen.
Yeah, they pretty much their idea was, how can we take over the world? Incest.
They're like the Targaryens of real life.
And it works pretty well. It works pretty well.
They're like, so they don't got cool dragons, you know. They just got lots of money. They did not have any
cool dragons.
Lots and lots of money.
That's one shame about that.
They got Venetian ships. That was worth their weight in gold at the time.
Definitely.
But I feel like I don't know enough about World War I because World War II overshadows it in such a big way.
I think it does a lot for us too. But and I think that honestly though, I think part of it is because it's like, you know, there's this big.
There's no Nazis, you know. It's not as flashy.
We can tell the story. We're still telling the story of World War II as to why our country's amazing and why we're good people.
America does a great job of writing these narratives and these world wars. You know, it's like,
but then it's like
always coming in late.
You can't really
always fashionably late with the boys. Here, take down some other Nazi boys in the trenches.
The thing that bothers me is it's like, okay,
we go back and kiss our missus.
War was good at this point, right? Or that war was good at that point. Or there's this good outcome because you got that bad person out of power, right? Then it's like, what has America actually done since then? It's like, you know, we've opposed the Soviet Union, which was like arguably good, or I don't know. I guess a good thing.
I don't know. Like that was just like.
Well, it wasn't exactly like.
That was something American Russia. It was like they're both at games. They both played the game. You know.
And also, it's like there's like a lot of horrible things that were done during that period, right? Like in Iran, like deposing other people's governments, and there's this really bad I think set of actions I think that there has been by this country, and so and I mean we're coming up on 100 years since World War II, right? We're not exactly there yet. It would be still 18 years away. But
yeah, I was about to say like we might be coming on World War I anniversary.
No, we already passed World War I.
We did? Oh, see, I don't know.
Two.
I just know about the trenches.
So we're about to hit.
And France Ferdinand.
France.
Ferdinand. All right. Damn, that guy's really that guy's death really You know, I'm not gonna say it. Jeez. So a whole bunch of people fighting just because one guy died. It's got to be more reasons. Of course there are. We just don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was because the way I understand it is that that was the the Balkan region was kind of where Russia versus Austria. Austria was kind of like their interest.
But who assassinated him? Russians?
Serbians.
Serbians.
And the Serbians are the allies of the Russians. So
see, I need to read up on my.
Russia wanted to defend the Serbians, and so that was already okay. That's a war. So then, when Austria-Hungary invaded Serbia, then that's
Russia, like the domino.
Then Russia was like, okay, I'm gonna fight you guys because you're not gonna pick on the Serbians. And then England and France were like, oh, and then Germany was like, oh, I'm gonna defend Austria-Hungary against the Russians.
Where does the world part come in? I feel like World War I is just Europe.
But then it's because of the colonies.
Oh, the colonies all start breaking apart and shit?
Well, England,
Ethiopia actually was in World War I. We fought Italia, I remember. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I guess, fascism was also trying to spread at the time. This is before Mussolini.
Fascism.
But like it's pseudo-fascism, like because they were trying to recreate the Roman Empire. Like colonialism is a pseudo-fascism, you know.
Well, that's the thing is that like colonialism is kind of like worse than fascism or just as bad as fascism, right? Like it's not that different, right? Like
no, it's disgusting because
the difference would be
way less opposition.
The dynamics of the ruling party. It wouldn't be in the actual outcome of you don't like they both do horrible atrocities.
No, but like in colonization, like there's way less rules, and the people are seen as completely not people. Like within the rule of fascism, the people are seen as the ruled. There's ruler that rules. Colonialism doesn't even have the ruler and rule per se. It kind of has human versus non-human dynamics because how they outline it, which takes on a whole different path. Because honestly, like it wasn't fascism or politics that decimated these lands. It was just pure brutality, like without like any.
I mean, it's evil, right?
Rules,
it's evil, and it's evil finding its way in different.
There's a system,
means. It's through the different systems that we make. Evil's finding a way, and evil's prospering.
Don't live long, don't prosper. Evil.
Sheesh. Yeah, but I definitely think that it's like, or to me, that's such an interesting thing. I don't even know. I don't remember exactly how I got onto this. Oh, we were talking about colonialism, but I do think it's interesting the way that like, uh, kind of colonialism is like was such a big thing, and like, it really still is. You know, it's like like world politics is
Even America has colonies. They
right.
don't talk about it, but all these little islands in the Pacific, all these little, even in like certain parts of Asia, South Pacific Asia, like there's all kinds of United States presence
Yeah, there's a lot of United States
that are
presence, and
just
then I think that there's
occupied.
also like the paranoia, right? One thing that happens, or one way that this kind of behavior is excused, is that it's like we need to protect our interests against the enemy who might do it. It's like it's economic money, economic justifies the war, justifies the subjugation, um, and I think that really the question we ought to be acting is as humans how like what right do we have to tell anyone else how to live, what to do, and
Mm.
exactly how should we treat each other as a society of the world, as a group of people in the world? How exactly should we treat each other? Because I think that if we can figure that out and we can start to act properly, then that would be a good thing. But if we aren't even going to ask the question, how could we ever hope to treat each other well?
How can we hope?
How can we
It's
hope?
hopeless.
Hopeless. What the?
It's just too much money. Everybody's exploiting everybody from every angle. It's kind of crazy. Even like the way the geography is set up to really serve certain people or certain nations better than others. Like you look at the geography of North America itself,
Definitely.
how it's cut up. It's not a coincidence or accident to how it's set up, down to just like every river and where it like kind of runs and how it runs. Like because people know when they're setting up societies, you know what's going to be needed. The river system is going to be very important. Managing that river system is going to be important. Understanding weather in that region is going to be important. Understanding where the crops are going to grow. So who ended up getting the best parts of the land? Like you never see it as being a colonialism context, but it is like everything is kind of foundationally created at that time, and to
Right.
this day serves the colonialists. Like Mexico used to have the whole western region of America, most of California and Texas, which had tons of valuable land.
Right.
All that gets annexed. Now they're just kind of left over with these mountainous, like jagged areas of the southern parts of the continent, which is not as desirable as the stuff that's further up towards Texas and Mexico.
You
You know what
don't
I'm
think so?
saying?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of natural resources down there, though. I mean, there's some crazy
No, I'm talking about
zinc.
like
I think that they found.
agriculture mostly. Like I'm sure you can
Oh,
mine for like
maybe
nonsense.
that's. I think that they like that was part
But
of
food
this.
is also that's your main resource right there. Because
Food, people,
food,
culture.
people, culture. I don't know. I feel like you want everybody to thrive. I feel like once we get past this colonialism nonsense, we need to get to a point where, because it does just restrict overall potential and a net gain for all of society when you have just one group of people that kind of monopolize in a big way.
Right.
It's just not as rich. The reality is not as rich as it could be because just this kind of mentality of kind of systematically crippling everybody else
Right.
just so you can have these
so part of what
benefits.
I'm curious about is like, what is the right? There must be a system that would work best.
I mean, we're at a point where I'm
There
like,
must be
I don't
a-
even know how. Like,
Because
because we're dealing with corporation entities that have bought up swaths
It's not
of
to say
land.
that we're close there. It's not to say that there's not a lot of changes that need to do. But I think it must be possible that as human beings, we can figure out
There
ways
needs to
live
be a
harmoniously with
change
each other.
in the hearts of the people.
Yeah.
There needs to be a flame,
Yes,
a
yes, yes.
light,
There does need to be a flame that's lit in the heart of the people.
because it needs to be understood
But,
that
okay,
you are
The flame
stifling
is lit.
potential.
The flame is lit. Right now, let's start planning.
Think
Let's
about
start figuring it out.
Think about a beautiful, thriving Mexico alongside America. Like
Right.
that's
That would
not
be- that would be
exploited.
better.
That's not constantly at odds with itself. Like that is a much more of a richer society than just having this kind of like border patrol. Everything you got it. Like
Right.
all
And
this
I think
hyper
that too,
is
with that
nasty.
whole border patrol. and
Help
things like
Mexico,
that,
help each
is that
other.
a huge aspect of why that's excused in the paranoia that comes is because of the crime right that goes on the border, which
Yeah.
is due to like the cartels, due to these things. These money making operations are any money making operation across the border is an organized crime problem on both sides of the border.
Everybody's
Right, that's American
everybody's
money that's
benefiting.
funding
Yeah,
that, right?
it's all integrated. It's like
So it's not
vertically
exactly-
integrated crime.
We can't just like draw a line and say, "Oh, that's not. Oh, this
Yeah.
has nothing to do with us." It's got something to do with us, y'all. Like it's on our like it's American.
So Americans buying them
people
fentanyl
are
and shit like that. Yeah.
Are in the cartels. Like, you know, they might be Hispanic, but they still are like American citizens, American.
But there's also
voting,
like the
right?
guy in the suburbs is buying that shit up too.
Right.
Like
No,
everybody's
for
playing
sure.
their part.
Well, I mean, and like on top of it, there's also the person like there's also that police union that's making it illegal, that's creating that supply.
right?
Everything. There's also
everybody
that
plays
prison
their part,
guard
yeah.
union that's making sure that stays criminalized,
Yeah.
which makes sure that the cartels, like I mean, any level of prohibition.
It's bad for both societies too. Your
Yeah.
population gets
It's
a
not
whole
good.
load of dangerous
Right.
drugs to get high
And
off
I
of.
think that
They're getting
the way to
killed,
deal with
you
drug
know?
addiction,
Yeah.
right, isn't like we can't have it be with drug addiction like the whole war on drugs, right? Reaganomics, Nixon kind of era shit, right? Like all of that idea is all of those ideas about how to deal with addiction are like you need to treat it like, oh, if anyone brings that stuff in here, oh, I ought to shoot them and like blah 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 and like, oh, those drug dealers, what horrible people. This does not work, people. Like this does not work even one iota. If it works, it would we would have suffered it. We would have gotten rid of these drug issues a long time ago. Like I see a lot of people dealing with drug addiction. I see a lot of people not having healthy relationships with that kind of thing. We need to change in the way that we care about each other, and the way that people care about their mentality, so that they don't need to reach out for those things. You know, we need to.
You gotta do it on the ground floor.
Yeah, we need to start from the bottom up, help people get overcome these things in their lives, and at the same time, it's not the heroin, it's not the oxycontin that's making people live like this. That's the symptom of the true problem, which is the addiction, right? And I think that like
And the money, like the amount of profit people make. They want you addicted so they can make more money.
Right.
It's the
And
money
people need to
causes-
help. People need like if the drugs were clean, right? If people knew what they were doing, and like any drug, right? No matter how addictive it is, most deaths due to drugs are because people. It's one type of a drug that you can take this amount of.
Yeah.
Is cut with some other type of drug that like the overdosing point is much smaller, right? That's the majority of deaths, right? It's like a lot of the times it's the fentanyls and this, and you don't know exactly, and you don't know it. And so if it was all legal, then we could be sure that we could cut down the total deaths, and we could help people, you know, just focus on getting them out of those addictions instead of criminalizing it, you know, making people paranoid, making people using guns. Dude, there was a shooting in Boulder like a few days ago. Maybe like over this last weekend.
I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, I saw a video of it. It's the craziest thing.
I don't know what was the reason.
I think that the part of the reason they were saying that it's like it was a drug related thing. There was some people coming in, selling, and it was like this is the world we live in because we're not willing to give the love that's needed to the people. Right?
Nope. Yeah, and again, it's too much money to be made. Like I'm telling you, even the pharmaceutical benefits. The pharmaceutical companies benefit from this kind of setup, you know.
Right.
It's billions of dollars.
I think it benefits the the ruling elite.
Yeah.
Because it's like if what we're doing as people is we're scared of each other and we're worried about each other and what if they have we're not living in harmony. We're spending our time miserable and fighting amongst each other when there's somebody else like in a mansion, like. And I mean, we live in Boulder.
But that guy's
some of these people are in
mind.
people are like live here too.
Yeah, I mean, this is hard, like
Right.
everything is set up to be super lucrative to be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see how we're gonna ever fix it. It's just like
I feel like that's the one thing I feel is like I just have an unquenchable like fire in my heart of
we need more of that
believing.
fire.
I 100% think we can do it. I don't know how. I don't know all the details.
I think
and
you're right. I think it does involve
I believe
giving
100%
people
it's
like
possible,
a place to,
and therefore it's inevitable.
giving people a place to really deal with their addiction, and like sometimes you might have to give them the substance. It's like a way where it's like understanding that this is crippling society, so it needs to be addressed more directly on the ground floor. I think.
I mean, and I think that like people have people in this country are always looking for an escape somehow. They're not happy with their life, so they're looking for escape. Whether that escape is drugs, right, alcohol, legal,
Video games.
still way worse of a problem than most drugs is alcohol. You know, video games, that's another escape. All these rabbit holes, right? Oh no, I'm not, you know, just somebody who works a job, like a minimum wage job. Even if you are, that
You got a
doesn't make you
job.
an unvaluable person, right? Like, but you're feeling sad, you're judging yourself, and then you're looking for an escape. You know, instead of okay,
It's crazy.
okay, let's not shame people. You know,
It's like Future
let's
said.
not shame people who have different jobs.
It's an evil world we're living in.
It's the evil world we're living in. Let's bring the love. Let's bring the good.
Yeah, seriously, like, damn.
But I do really think like people are always looking for these escapes. You know, and that's really, to me, that's really the problem. Is
That's
let's
why it's
stop-
super interesting to
Let's
see.
not make people. Let's try to make it so people don't need to escape. Is what I wish. I wish people like we could show like that love, show that energy.
Yeah, that requires such an existential shift.
And that's such an existential shift. That's
Yeah.
like
It's
one of
just
the hardest things in the world. But I think that's look. What are we gonna do if we're not even aiming for that, right? Like,
Yeah.
What?
It's such an
our
intricate
sad world is we're not even we don't even have the guts to ask for what would be good.
yeah, it's like we need to create a level of intricate. That same level of energy needs to be put into something else that's as intricate, because this is such an intricate way of like disenfranchising a lot of people, taking advantage of a lot of people, and taking advantage of the whole system. And we're seeing something like the drug addiction and the border problems and seeing the smuggling of drugs and all that stuff. It just shows you how like every aspect of society is created to kind of create this cycle of kind of gains and losses across the board for different groups of people, and there's mostly losses for a lot of people. Even the people that are getting high are mostly losing, and there's a small group of people like getting a lot from all of this, and then there's just a whole bunch of people just kind of playing their role in the cog almost, and that keeps the drugs flowing in and out, keeps people completely hooked and addicted. So having like that shift where that kind of slows down or even cuts off, for me, it's super hard to imagine. It's just like, it's like almost like a Lovecraftian demon has taken over.
Yeah.
And then you just sit there like,
Well,
kind
to
of
me,
like
that's
bewildered. It's like,
Like
how do we get?
This
It's
is
crazy.
You want to talk about spiritual warfare, right? That's the devil.
Yeah, I know.
That is the devil, right?
Where's the significant force of good that's
Yeah.
gonna fight this? Like, I just don't see it. I see the politicians playing
Where are
their
the
role.
good people? Where are the Christians?
I see that.
The
No,
Christians are part of the
those there.
problem.
I'm not even talking about Christians. I'm like, where's that overwhelming force of good that's going to combat this overwhelming force
No, I
of
know.
evil?
I think that a lot of
It's
the
not
time
here.
the
It's like
so-called-
evil world.
The so-called good people aren't living up. To
No,
it.
they play their role. Like, half these people
It's just
are
an ego trip.
buying the drugs. Half these people are, like cutting access to people who need just actual medicine and shit like that. That's
Right,
feeding
right.
into the problem as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It all
for sure.
adds into it. It's just you just look at it, you're like, I see how intricately devilish this shit is.
Yeah.
Where's the intricately like opposing force? It's just it's not. It doesn't seem like a level playing field. So you see a lot of people just incentivized to play into it because they can profit as well.
Right.
So you see that even people who go around advocating for, this kind of like drug liberation nonsense type of shit, even they end up becoming like put into their own category and place, and then they just start profiting from their own campaigns. They don't really. Everybody gets integrated into this system. They become almost like useless after all of it.
But
like-
don't you think that like this, like there's, don't you think there's a struggle between good and evil? Because I think that evil.
I just think evil is
intrinsically-
winning too much.
I think evil intrinsically is
Evil winning too much. I don't see a battle.
that
I see a
evil-
stomp down. I see
I
like
think
a
that
beat
evil
down.
is the weakest, one of the weakest forces in the world is evil.
No, I see
Because
way
if
more
you
evil
look
than
at
good.
people that are their lives are consumed by evil.
I'm not even a pessimist, and I just see like there's so much oppression and so much taken advantage. Like this, everything is just kind of so intricately weaved to
it
create
definitely
oppression.
is. But like
That is
if you
crazy.
believe
Yeah.
in good, right? Like, don't you think that there must be something then that could undo that?
That's God for me. That's where I like
Yeah,
put
okay,
faith
that's
in
God.
God. 100%. Yeah.
But like that must be possible, right? And there must be a most intricate, most effective, most simple way of solving this.
I mean, I'm not. I don't want you to think I'm pessimistic, hopeless, because I'm not. All I'm saying is I see the intricacy of the devil. Like he's right there. I see it. I see what y'all doing. I see who's getting, who's not getting. I get it. Where is that similar? Like the only closest thing I see is people like us. Not that I'm a great person, but like people who refuse to take part in it in a way where just like they're not in it for like this crazy significant profit margin. You know what I mean? It's not really about. I feel like we need to have a crop of individuals in the next generation grow up to be these mindsets where it's not about what I can get.
I don't think we can wait that long.
No, we need to tap in as soon as possible, please.
Start going now. I think we need to start going now.
What can I get? What can I get mindset is gotta go.
Like I feel like as a kid, like I heard the older people say, "Your generation needs to fix it all." It's like,
yeah.
What about your generation? You're an adult right now. What are you doing? Like, and what kind of example are you leaving for the kids if you don't even have the balls to try to do the right thing in your life? Right? Like that's something that gets to me. Is like I think that we should like. What are we doing if we're not going to fight for that? What are we doing if we're going to wait? What are we doing if you can see that the world is flawed and you can see all these issues? Why don't we try to fix it? And I think that there are people who are trying to fix it. You know?
People don't associate
let's work together. Let's keep our egos out of it and let's solve these problems.
What I see is like a lot of the times, even people with that idea that they want these solutions, like it becomes hard to really engage because everybody's super segmented into their parts of society. So you're living in like suburbia in a kind of upper middle class, even upper class. For you, even if you are vehemently against the system that's oppressing many people, like, and you want to inspire good in others, at the end of the day, I don't see people really associate themselves with the parts of the world that they kind of will be marginalized peoples or groups. And it can be anybody. It can be like just poor whites in the South. You just don't see people associating too much, and you see a lot of like cut off even within the United States. So for me, it's almost like we're all unknowingly or knowingly in our places. We've been put in our place. Whether you're the rich guy, you've been made quiet. You really made everybody's kind of powerless. I feel the powerlessness more than everybody because I see like not only the level of oppression for people, but like how the planet is getting oppressed. And tomorrow I'll quit my job and just literally dedicate my time to just like cleaning the river up, picking up trash, going around making shit like.
Right,
but it's hard to really do that because you're locked into the system where you gotta go get money so you can feed yourself.
But like I mean,
and then everything's so expensive. It's hard to just like.
That's to me is the
give
thing.
your time to things.
You need power to affect change.
And those people don't want to change. They don't want to change a thing.
And that's why I think that we need to get as much power as we can so we can change the world as much as we can.
That's my hope. That's the hope. That's the hope. No, you're right.
I think that there's all these like kind of a true hero would be somebody who'd pick daisies and just have love in his heart. It's like I appreciate that type of person, but with all due respect, evil's a strong force in the world, and it's hurting people right now. And it's like I think that there needs to be like a meteoric rise of good to combat that.
Yeah, and it's with the people, I think.
And it needs to come from the people.
Yeah, and it's individuals on the ground floor. You gotta look after your communities, look after your people that are around you. Make sure, like people are not getting into violent cycles, addiction cycles.
It's like not just fight the power. Like
you gotta do it on the ground floor.
Be the power good. Be the good power. Be powerful enough to push back. Let's push back. That's what I say.
And again, it's not like we don't need to have everybody become world saving force. It's just I think simply just do it on the ground floor. If it becomes more people doing that, it becomes you can become noticeable because it's like a lot of people.
Let's do what we can.
Yeah.
Because if you try, I think if you try your hardest and you fight for what you believe in, how can you have a regret? Right? How can you have a regret if you've at least fought a good fight?
You always got to do what you can. Like
that's
every moment. Like you got to walk through life like you're going to be called upon to do something. It does not mean you have to sit down, record, and outline what you've done. Just be ready if you're needed. Like, and this is obvious. Like this is what everybody tells you is but we think it's corny now, but it's not. It's the truth. Like if you always are ready to do what you can. Nobody's going to expect you to become brain surgeon and to solve all the cancers and problems. But if you can be counted in those moments every time you're there, that's going to be a net good overall for all of humanity. If everybody is counted in that way, And everybody just maintains
Certainly.
that core idea that let's not just be so possessing about everything, and we just need we get what we need and we keep it there, and we don't go crazy. Like the grotesque living has got to stop. That's number one.
Yeah.
That you want to make things better, people got to stop being so excess, too much showy stuff, too much like I love, you can dress fly, you can get fly without it becoming this like nasty, gross thing. Like as somebody who's into like fashion in a big way, I'm not walking around trying to find and wear the most expensive, thinking that's the highest. It's never the highest.
Right.
There's an art to that comes with how you dress, because you have to figure out how you're gonna express yourself and feel good at what you're wearing in a way that's gonna be unique to you. That's a whole creative thing. But a lot of people get caught up in the whole fashion as
It's like the way
showy, flashy thing. Yeah, that's not real fashion. So this idea should not limit anybody. People just gotta stop have so much access. Like you don't need 5 houses, you don't need 30 cars,
and I think that fashion
you don't need that much money in your wallet,
right? Because wasn't there this stunt that they pulled? Payless, right? Payless.
Payless, yeah.
Payless. They opened up a shop in like downtown, like some rich part of LA, right? Invited all these influencers, and they were all talking about like, well, yeah, I'd pay $500 for this shoe. It was just the same shoes that they have at Payless shoes for like 20.
I can't believe that actually happened. I really can't believe these people are
these people actually bought it. These people were buying them, and
Frauds.
they refunded them. They refunded them, and they recorded them telling it. Such a good video. Wow.
That's what I'm telling you. Like that kind of shit only works on that consumer's minds that like out here like preying like sharks. Like people who need to buy, and then go and accumulate as much money as they can from whoever they can, and then spend it. They don't even take time to really appreciate value in things. Like if you're really into fashion, you can, without seeing a price tag, pick something up, see the value in that object because you like the cut and the sew, the material they use, the silhouettes, whatever it is. Or sometimes you just simply like a certain designer's language. Like it's not just like expensive for expensive reasons. There's sometimes you really pay for what you really get what you pay for in fashion. Like if I'm paying for a very expensive garment from a very top level designer,
there's like rare stuff.
You can feel the premium quality. You can feel just the like it is worth what it says it is. And sometimes the hype adds a little more value to it, but you can understand why, because that's what happens with things that are hyped. But there's a reason there's a hype there. So this whole experiment just does not prove to me that fashion is a fraudulent kind of game. It shows how much
that would be the wrong takeaway.
Yeah, it shows you how much fraudulent people are co-opting the whole fashion thing just to kind of get clout. You know what I'm saying? A lot of just clout chasing bullshit, which is corroding the whole artistic and enjoyable aspects of fashion, which has nothing to do with flexing on anybody. It's literally just feeling good being yourself. It feels good when I'm wearing my best fits. I feel good, and it's not really because I'm better than everybody. It just means I'm wearing like my character's fit that makes me feel like my character.
It's like it's a one.
It's my straw hat.
Like, exactly. It's like you feel you. You're trying to express yourself. You express yourself well. You feel good.
And then you do it, and it becomes more fly than just wearing the crazy expense. It becomes more. You feel more of a glow than you do just like wearing Versace head to toe, which you look like a clown.
Right.
You look stupid when doing that.
Then it's just a flex, right? And I think it's just a flex. It doesn't really seem that good.
Yeah, and that's why I love fashion, is because like a lot of times fashion connoisseurs or fashion admirers or whatever, people who are in the game, they see what's happening with the hype culture, with people like the Payless people who are like spending money on stupid shit. They see how trends are going. So what they'll tend to do is pivot and start developing different unique things that will move the envelope forward for fashion. So it's like the reaction against that.
Right.
A lot of the time is what allows fashion to really blossom and gain like the next wave of hype shit. If it wasn't for that reaction, like if it was just a bunch of vapid people just buying and spending vapid money, you wouldn't have this like evolution and growth in fashion.
When I was young, I think that's the way I looked at fashion. Is I just understood it as it's just a place for like vanity. Yeah, and I think that's also like that's in all fairness, I think that artists get a similar rap too, where it's like, oh, that's not actually good art, especially when it comes to like modern kind of abstraction. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's not actually a good. That's not actually a good piece. It's just, and I think I've seen like I saw these hilarious pieces like done. It literally looked like somebody just scribbled on paper.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, I can kind of get the artistic like, wow, that emotion. And I mean, Rothko's, I think, is a great example of like a controversial figure when it comes like to, or exactly. I think that that's kind of, if we're going to talk about like weird abstract art, I think that knowing where somebody comes on, falls on the Rothko scale is kind of a good test.
Yeah.
And because I've known some people who are like, wow, you just need to see them, you need to be near them. And in a way, it almost reminds me of like the My Tree roots, right? You know the My Tree roots? For those of you who don't know at home, like, so we both graduated from Naropa University, and they have these rooms that are, it's this Tibetan form of meditation called My Tree, right? And you meditate in these different colored rooms, and they have like different effects. And I don't know that much about it. I think you probably know more than I do.
I took it, yeah.
Yeah,
You basically, you got it right. Like, I did it during the pandemic came around, so I didn't get the full extent
I
of
see.
the
You're
But yeah,
meditating during the Zoom version of My Tree is
terrible.
Is you're meditating in front of a Zoom screen, and then there's like a picture of a blue screen.
It's crazy. You can hear people's like background noise and
Oh my
like kitty
goodness.
cats going around. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Somebody did mute. That was a trip, yo. That was a trip. But no, like I would agree. I think a lot of the times. Wait, what were we talking about?
We're talking about Rothko
No, before that.
art, abstract art.
Money. Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of the times, like the reason that people water art or fashion down in this way, it becomes so commodified and it becomes so much lucrative money in it that it just reduces it into like kind of a caricature of itself. So it's hard to take seriously. You know what I mean? Because you see people paying ridiculous money for what they deem to be an easy work of art.
Right.
But for me, I never see Rothko and say that's easy.
I mean, Rothko, I think of as a tragic example, right? Because he,
I was a tragic person, 100%.
right. Well, he like famously he.
That's part of the art. That's what makes the art great, though. Like everything plays a part. You know,
Rothko would make giant paintings that were just one color.
it's like two colors, like
or
big
like two
one.
colors. Yeah,
They're like touching almost.
there's some playing there, but it was pretty much like this color, that color. It was color blocks was essentially what it was.
It's lit. I actually like.
I think that he's good.
Yeah.
But to me, he's like a good example of like somebody who's controversial because people
use him as an example. Yeah,
he's a good.
Like look how easy that looks. That looks so easy.
Yeah. A lot of people who dislike kind of abstract art will hate on Rothko. I think that Rothko is kind of a better example than some stuff. But at the same time, to me, Rothko isn't the height of art. Like he's not. To me, he's not the best artist. No. It's like what he did was an interesting thing.
And
so I wouldn't put
people
him as
forget
high
the
as
context of his time too.
Klimts of the world.
People forget the context of his time. Like if people are doing a bunch of Rothko-like pieces today, it just wouldn't hit the same. Like it just wouldn't hit the same. Yeah. It just hit different because there was nobody doing something like that back then. So there's a lot of things in this life in this current day we take for granted because we think it's just like if you ever read early science fiction, it's corny as hell because those tropes have been beaten to death with modern media and cinema, like Star Wars. So you can't read old sci-fi without being like, ugh, like corny. It's like Lord of the Rings, corny, because you need like nowadays we have crazier new stories that have thrown those tropes away
for so long.
They've thrown the tropes. Like Game of Thrones does not follow the tropes. And that's why
I think that there's such a need to constantly be retelling the stories, right? Mm-hmm. Remake or like making new masterpieces. We need new masterpieces. Like that's something that drives me. Is like
riff off the old stuff.
Well, like riff off the old stuff, but then it's like go farther,
metamorphosize it.
Yeah, take it into something else. Take it in a new direction. There's always a need to keep things fresh. And that to me, that's kind of the value of fashion, art, music. Is like what are we doing? Who are we here and now? You know, and there's a certain vibrance in life to telling the story of who we are as people, who we are as a culture.
In this moment in time.
Right? Like we are in a way, we're captured by the people we know who are musicians who play music. We're captured by the people we know who are artists who make art. Even if the song isn't about us, if the painting isn't a painting if it's not a portrait, like the energy of our time is captured in those pieces. Right, and so that's a very sacred thing to me.
It's true.
Is that immediacy, and I think that
everybody wins. Really, with the more art, more music, more fashion. Everybody wins.
The fashion of the present. This is you're telling us what it means to be a person in the 21st century.
Yep.
That's what happens. You know, that's like, and it might seem like I'm being dramatic right now. I don't think so. I think I'm actually not being dramatic enough. I would disagree with you. Like. 100%. This is like, these are the things that matter. And there's other shit that matters too.
No, but again, it makes so much people's lives rich. Like when we get nostalgic, it's because of our favorite music plays or something.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the
times,
our
favorite cartoon comes on. Like that's art. Like all that is art.
Our architecture is a great example too. We have a lot of ugly buildings right now. But if we had more beautiful buildings and like more beautiful houses,
we do have a lot of ugly buildings.
Like cookie cutter things.
A lot of buildings are ugly. A lot of cars are ugly too.
Yeah, we need beauty in our lives. People need beauty in their lives to feel good. And
the problem is cutting costs, saving money. That's
exactly.
Why. That's why.
But this is where it's like that's where the art comes in, right? Because like, okay, if I told you, I want you to make the most beautiful painting you can, and I'll provide you with as much money as you need for it.
Okay.
Right.
That's
start to picture like what you would do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You picture it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let me tell you. Okay. Now I could only give you $1 million.
I'll take it still.
Right, but you could still figure that out, right?
Of course, yeah.
What if I say, okay, I'll only give you $10,000?
I'll still
you could still, yeah, right. So that's the thing about creativity and beauty and art is like, there's all like what's needed is that like
devotion
is that devotion, that thought process. It doesn't cost more money to be beautiful. You just have to think it out.
Time and dedication.
You just have to be going in the direction of beauty.
Yeah.
Some of the most beautiful things in the world are like free. I mean, nature's free.
And incorporating that in free nature is going to
nature's the most beautiful thing. The sky, it
keeps giving too. Like you just plant more, it just keeps you.
The sky when the sun rises,
free.
Nothing has ever been as beautiful as that, right?
Yeah, everybody.
That's undefeated.
That honestly, like if everybody pursues beauty in that way, like I want to create beauty not just with art, but like with like growing and. I feel like that if everybody's just super hands-on involved with that, like, and not just this, like, I gotta be on the computer making money mindlessly and then I'll take my breaks to drink and get fucked up. I don't know. I feel like if everybody's intention was behind creating not just beauty, but like incorporating nature behind it, like the world can be easily transformed. Like you can go, like everywhere you go, everybody's thinking about how they're gonna use the bees, how they're gonna incorporate the grass. Like everybody's minds is already.
I think that nature should be the guy. Right?
It would be crazy.
Nature's the guy.
If all of us had just kept
that's the way to live. Nature's
everybody had a certain amount of plants.
Communicating with us.
Oh man. Okay, we're at the 1 minute 25 minute 1 hour 25.
1 minute.
1 hour 25 minutes.
We've been talking for 1 minute here.
So you should probably wrap it up.
I think we should wrap it up. I mean, I don't have much. Oh, I do have one last thing to say. The Thoughts and Prayers exhibit, famously actually tragic exhibit that I had up at Edge Gallery. It's a group show. It's a group member show at Edge Gallery. It's actually moving to Naropa this coming week.
You have a gallery show?
Yeah, well, it's that one. It's going up at
Nalanda?
Yeah, Nalanda.
Oh, word.
Yeah, so come through. I'm going to be setting up. There's going to be an opening, but the dates of the opening haven't been. It's all kind of sudden, but come through.
I was supposed to go to Nalanda too, but I don't know if I can because I can't seem to get my art there with this. Like, when are you going to Nalanda? Because I feel like I might be able to.
It's going to be Saturday, the 8th is the install.
I have to talk to what's it, Audra?
Audra.
Yeah, and we'll figure it out because I want to have a painting up too.
Yeah, but there's art happening. There's going to be lots of art shows. We're here in Colorado, living, breathing, and we're trying to make the world a better place.
Right.
And yeah.
Don't forget, we're still stupid kids. Okay.
Yeah, we're still flawed. We're only human. It's just it's only Geo and
upper yard
and upper yard. Yardy.
Yardy boy, the upper yardian.
But anyways, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And all right, signing off. Sweet Potato Pirate Radio. Thank you.
Peace.